And yes, my wife did get an ARP grant, around $29,000. But insurance companies, you can name them all over this town, and hair salons, and you know, people got $40,000 in grants. But would you tell about the grant that, whatever they're trying to say about, I gave it to my wife? Would you provide us some clarity on that?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and members of council, Mr. City Manager. So I think what's been referenced is a small business grant that Carolyn Hugley, State Farm agent, received. As you know, the city received over $78 million from ARP funds. The council decided how those funds would be distributed, and that was approved by council. $4,850,000 was allocated to the ARP grant program. That was $40,000 for small businesses, up to $25,000 for nonprofits, and up to $25,000 for economic tourism grants. That program was a partnership with the Greater Columbus Chamber of Commerce. We held many training sessions with the Chamber of Commerce and the Community Reinvestment Director, Rob Scott. There were requirements of any small business, any nonprofit that wanted to submit. They were extensive requirements. They were, you had to have a business license, you had to be in operation by March 1 of 2019, you had to submit documentation, you had to submit proof of payment, you had to submit W-2s, and all kinds of information was required in order to qualify. This program was administered by the Chamber. They went through a process. There was an application process, there was an extensive review process, and a recommendation from the Chamber to the city for those businesses that qualified for this program. Again, this was $4.85 million, and we take that very seriously. When we issue checks, we make sure that they're paid to who they need to go to. So there was an ARP program manager that reviewed all the documentation that was submitted to the city by the Chamber. The finance director personally reviewed all the documentation that was submitted before we submitted that information to the city manager. There was a contract that's required to be signed by the small business or the nonprofit, and the city manager acts as the signatory for the city. When the application for his wife came forward to his desk for signature, he did not sign it. He immediately contacted the mayor and the city attorney at that time and asked, how do I handle this particular grant? It's to my wife. I want to be transparent. That's a big word tonight. He wanted to be transparent with the mayor and the city attorney, and they advised him, do not sign that contract. He referred that to me to sign. And I validated that that information was correct, and I signed the agreement, and that was submitted to the finance department for payment. The city manager did not sign that agreement. He saw that it came through and referred it to the mayor and the city attorney's office. So to be clear, Carolyn Hugley, State Farm, did receive a check in the amount of $29,730.22. Every penny of that was documented that she qualified for this program, that her business qualified for this program, not her personally, but her small business, just like the rest of the $4,850,000 that was expended on this program. This program was so successful that we applied to the state of Georgia for additional funding for a small business nonprofit grant program and received an additional over $3.5 million to benefit those businesses that were impacted during COVID. So that is the information on this grant that she received.
And just in closing, you know, law firms received it. I mean, and I announced it at this council, and I had you to pull the clip where I said it at city council. Is that right?
That's correct.
It was said here at the city council. I met with the Black Chamber of Commerce. I told you all that. There was no secret, and people running around like there was some secret and the city manager gave his wife $30,000. I want you to know the facts, and we ought to be transparent. And I'm prepared, I have been, and will be going forward.
And
Thank you.
also,
Go
to
ahead.
add to that, Counselor did request all the grants that were issued and who received checks. This was dated August the 5th of 2024. The finance director provided that counselor and all city councilors at that time on August the 9th, 2024, with transaction detail of every business and nonprofit that received that grant. And that grant was on that list, so
Yeah.
it has.